Hey team. Well, further to the last video, we are now under the Bayview Bridge, and we are heading off to see if it is possible to get under the bridge and over to Yonge Street without going on surface streets. And of course, let's quickly review our principles. First of all, we want to stick as close to the river as possible. Second of all, of course, we don't go on private property. Third of all, if possible, we stick to marked trails. So look at this. There's the Vaughan River. Isn't that cool? Huh, look at it down there. Quite a bit bigger than it is up by Maple. And in the background there, you can see the Bayview Bridge. So let's see where we can get to, shall we? Another nice view of it right there. Wow. A little bit polluted, but not too bad. And we're off. So I stopped and talked to a bunch of different people this morning, people who are mostly dog walkers and other walkers, and they all said basically the same thing, that there were some loops that went roughly where we're looking to go, but it wasn't going to be easy. And I kind of see what they mean. That's quite cool. Notice the geotextile there on the left-hand side to stop erosion. Quite funky, actually. Sort of like a lightweight riprap. Lots of dog paw prints. The woman I just talked to, Allie, she said that this is a very popular loop for dog walkers. And there we are, right by the river. Huh. Well, looks like the path goes in two ways. Let's see what Strava has to say. Okay. Looks to me that I could go either way, and it's going to loop me around to where I want to be. But I think we're going to stay towards the right because that stays closest to the river, and that is our principle. Yeah, there's the river right there. Lovely. I tell you, it's absolutely beautiful down here today. It must be about 22 degrees. Not too hot, not too cold. Just gorgy. Huh. Okay. Gonna check Strava again. Yeah, I want to go to the left here, I think. Definitely. Yeah. And there should be, oh yeah, there's my trail off to the right. All right, look at this. Quite nice, really. Well, we're going to stick on this now and see where it goes. Post 5. We are right beside the river. And there's the mighty dawn. Huh. That's interesting. Well, it says you're welcome, but it's also signposted TFS. That's interesting. Huh. We got a bit of a tributary here. Dry right now, but you can see from the erosion that during rain events, it'll get substantial flow. Well, there's the trail we want over on the other side. Yeah, look at the size of that tree. Roots are all eroded away. And you can see the manhole. At some point this did have city stormwater management on it. Now, I had a great chat today with a couple who lived on Roslyn, and looked to me like one might be able to get to Roslyn at some point. Still going. These leaves are pretty undisturbed. It's been a while since someone's been along here. Huh. You know what? We got those chestnuts, or those pears. Chestnuts. And that is apples. At some point 100 years ago, this was an apple orchard. Sorry for the camera work. Well, I don't know about you, but I see a fence up there in the future. Oh, interesting. Still TFS. Enjoy TFS, but there is a fence. It's okay. Oh, okay. Well, isn't that interesting? This is not TFS. This is Rosedale Golf Course. And, oh, hang on. This is not the Rosedale Golf Course. There's no access to it either. Private property, please respect. Private property. Okay, where are we? Let's see where we are here. Well, yeah, I can see where Roslyn is, and I still think that's a possibility. But, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the right along the fence down to the river to see if there's access that way. And then we're going to go left along the fence and we'll see if there's access that way. Remember our principle. We don't knowingly go on private property. Now, not that I'm a lawyer, but in Canada there's this thing called riparian rights. What that means is that private property owners cannot own riverbanks. However, it's a little gray. And the reason for that is it does depend on when you were given title to your property. And if you were given title before a certain date, which I believe is the roughly the time of Confederation, then you do own the riparian rights. Well, they pretty clearly have that fenced off right to the riverbank. So I think we can be pretty damn certain that there's no way to get through here this way. Okay, let's follow the fence up the other way. Okay, I'll take a look at my map here, see where we are. Huh. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, well, we're going to keep more or less following the fence line. Yes, boss. Yes, I will not trespass. Be very curious to know who owns the land there, though. It's a lovely piece of land, that's for sure. With a private stream. Well, I see a nice log up there. I think it's time to sit down and have a break, a bit of water. Huh, nice ash tree. Huh. Well, let's take a pause right here. All right, well, this really is pretty dang bucolic here. Hey, check it out. Absolutely beautiful. Nice little glade. Unfortunately, I had what we know in my family as ERs, that is to say, emergency rations. So I am hydrated and fed, and we'll keep on trucking and see where this fence takes us. Yeah, I tell you, eh? This is pretty dang beautiful. Huh. Well, I kind of got two choices here. I could go up to the top of the hill here, see where that comes out, or I could follow the fence. That's actually kind of interesting. I think what I'll do, I'll keep going up, see what I see. Huh. Interesting. And there's the end of the fence. Oh, isn't that fascinating? Huh. Yeah, let's just take a look around here. So, let's see where we are on the map. Well, you know, I'm not too far from Roslyn. So I'm going to keep going. Now, what's a bit wacky is, if I went up there on the other side, I think that I'd come to Riverview Street. Riverview. Oh. Okay, well, there we go. That's pretty interesting. So, you can see up there to the left, sorry about the trees in your eyes. Okay, see up there to the left, that is fenced. And I would say that is pretty clearly somebody's backyard. However, there's nothing to stop us keeping going up here because there's no fences. So that's the private property starting there. Weird. Okay. Yeah. Would have been easier crossing this a little further up, but that's okay. We are a bit adventurous. Let's see if we can get through here. Oh yeah, special. Well, I'm going to have to actually use my walking stick here. Ooh. Yeah, this is definitely on the ooky side. Yep, we made it. Not easily. I definitely think the far side of the stream is quite a bit easier, less muddy. Whew. I'm reasonably confident no one's been up here for a while. special. Oh yeah. I see a sign up there. What do you want to bet? That sign says private property. In which case, we may have reached the end of the proverbial road. Yep. Okay, well, now we know. Can't go on this side. Let's cross the river again. I don't think I'm going to walk across that log. Well, it looks like we got something kind of strong there. All right. All right, made it to the other side. Special. Well, I've got waterproof boots here. Let's try and get up. All right, here we are. Back on the south side. Well, hey, not to give away the ending, but it's certainly not an easy walk, even if we do manage to find our way out. You know, that's a coyote track. That's interesting. I roughly know where we are. Huh, look at that up ahead. I too could be a schist head. Because I would say that is a mica schist outcropping. Kind of cool. Yeah. Oh no, look at that, it's not. Oh, it's a tree. That's rotting away to nothing. Well, you can see this ravine keeps going. But the problem is, it is very unlikely there's going to be access. I think what I might do, let's take a look at the map here. Yeah, we're a good kilometer, well, 500 meters at least away from. We're 500 meters away from Roslyn. But with that said, first of all, there's a little stream here to the left, and that leads us up to Mildenhall Road. That's number one. And number two, there's still a place on Roslyn where I think there may be access. But TBH, I think we're better off going and checking those two options out in the car, and then we'll know for sure. Because I don't really feel like spending another half an hour fighting my way up only to find that there's no access at that end. So yeah, but I've marked this point on the GPS, and if I can make it back to here from either Mildenhall or Roslyn, then we will have success. Otherwise, we're just going to have to do it on surface streets. All right, let's turn around. That was a lot of work to come 1.5 kilometers. This time we're going to angle uphill and try and avoid the mud and ook. All right. Oh, look at this. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful morning. Oh. Huh. That is actually kind of interesting. Oh, there's something heading up that way. Ah, and that must be the back end of TFS. That fence right there. Yeah, for sure. I'm guessing that fence is the TFS playing field. And strangely enough, this area here is incredibly boggy. And here we have trails coming down. Oh, this must be the steps. This must be the steps that show on the map. All right. Well, so the answer is we can get to the steps, but we cannot get from the steps up to Mildenhall because that's private property. Yeah, more marshy bits. Funny. I didn't expect it to be quite so marshy on a slope like this. And yet it is. There's some limestone finds here. I bet they tried to maintain this as a running trail. I know TFS always had a very successful cross-country team. Yeah, this is seriously crappy territory. Oh, I wouldn't have expected that the high route would be worse than the low route. Oh yeah, but sure enough, it is. Holy craptacular. Yeah, we're gonna take a rest here. So I'm happy to do so, because going uphill was all kinds of no fun. So you can see in the future there, that fence, yeah, right where we cross the river. Basically, I recognize the bucket. Okay, let's carefully work our way downhill. We'll go in front of this tree so that if we do fall, we can use the trees to arrest our fall. There we go. And there's my footprints on the way westbound. Oh yeah, this is more fun than the time my grandma cut her tit in a ringer. Oh yeah, lovely. Well, I believe here are the steps, and I'm gonna walk down those steps. Well, where's the fence? I think the fence is in our future. Okay. All right. Well, here we are somewhere. When I get later, when I look at the map, I'll figure out exactly where we are. And you'll see it on the little map to the left or right. Okay. The fence, I can see. Yeah. I don't think we want to be on the far side. No. I mean, unless by any chance there's a way to get up there. But no, we found that there was no way to get up there. And up above us is all big private estates. So no, we do not want to cross that thing. We want to keep going right down here. Basically, retracing our previous path. Here's my boot prints. And now we're into the nice path area. There we go. Well, it's an easy walk from here down. I mean, I say easy. I mean, my heart rate is up at 150, but how about if we agree on easier? I think I must have crossed on that little ridge there. Yeah, I can see my boot prints. All right. And now we're on the land of wide open paths. I'm actually getting low on water. Oh yeah. Well, note for the future. Could have crossed that bridge and ended up right back on the same path. Now, let's check the map again. Do I want to head off to the right there? Let's just see. Nope. Yes. I think so. Yeah. There we go. Off to the right. Well, it's interesting that the fences on the east side of the stream and the west side of the stream are both in the same font and same style. So I suspect that this fence belongs to TFS. And you can't see it, but the other fence is over to the left, which is north on your map. Okay, now there should be a trail. Apparently. Well, that's interesting. Huh. It says there's a trail to the left, but I believe if I take this trail, well, this is actually kind of interesting. This goes towards the golf course. Huh. Oh, I think it's going to cross this little bridge. Okay, something's not right here. Something's not right, but okay. I think this is gonna take us across the river. And hook up with a slightly different trail. Huh, well, I wasn't really in the mood to do any more exploring, but you know, okay. So there's the dawn. You know, I don't like this at all because, you know what? I think we're on the inside of the fence. We are on the bad side of the fence. Yep. That fence there ends right here, and that's where we were. We were right on the other side of that fence. All right, I should not be on this fence, on this side of the fence. Yep, look at the barbed wire. It's keeping other people out, not me in. All right. Not quite sure how that happened. As you can see, I never climbed over any fences. Yeah, there's the sign I saw. It's a little confusing that they have signs on both sides. Yeah, there's the traffic cone I went past. Oh. Yeah, and that fallen down tree right there is where I stopped for emergency rations. Okay, just gonna look at my GPS here, see if I can figure out how I ended up on this side of the stream. Well, we followed that fence once before. Let's go back the same way. Yeah. And there it is, and that's where I crossed, right where that big log is. Yeah, there's where I had my ERs, right there. And we're just going to zip around that little fence post since we're getting out, not getting in. or do I take the easy way and take the stairs and go across the bridge? You know what? I'm an old man. I think I'll take the easy way. My heart rate is at 157 after all. Not looking forward to the other side there. Whoa, check that tree out. Don't see that very often. It's gnawed in two. And the crazy thing is, I think that's been gnawed in two by a beaver. Wow, wacky. And it regrew, or it rotted, one or the other. Okay. Yeah, there's a little platform there, so gotta go up, follow my footsteps up the side of that fence, and then go down, hang a right, and we'll be back at the car. I think time for a little sit down and some water. Before we do that, look at that. See what we got right there? I would say that was a fox enjoying a nice emergency ration of blue jay. All right. Well, had a bit of water. I'm almost out of water, so definitely it's time for this to end. And I took the opportunity to change my Insta365 battery, which is pretty impressive that it's made it so far, because, you know, I've been going for a fair while. All right. You know, I have these Columbia boots, and when I bought them, I mostly bought them because they were cheap. They were 79 bucks, and they had, if you can believe it, 4,000 positive reviews. But they were also waterproof. And I was thinking that I didn't really need waterproof boots and they were going to make me sweat too much. But gotta say, I am mighty thankful I had them. All right. Onwards and upwards, as they say. Okay. We are now on the correct side of the fence. And we'll take it nice and easy. This is not the Rosedale Golf Course. There's no access to it either. Yeah, well, people, I did my best. Never crossed any fences. All right. Now, for those of you who are curious about how is it that urban headwaters came to be, I'll give you a little bit of the backstory here. So, I am a man of a certain age, and when I was young, I was in unbelievably good condition. I was a figure skater, I was naturally slim, weighed 140 pounds, and could do 60 push-ups no problem. And basically I'm in my 60s now, and I have done zero exercise since I was 20 years old. Mostly coasted on being in good shape as a kid. And I've gained about a pound a year for 40 years. A little bit more, actually. But the real problem is my cardiovascular fitness is shite. And so my doctor, a couple of years ago, the incomparable Dr. Ree, he suggested that I might want to exercise. And then a year ago, it kind of wasn't a suggestion anymore. So, had to do something. And I loathe with every fiber of my being running. I'm not very fond of gyms either. But I do love to walk. So I thought, well, I'll walk. So I started walking around my house. Problem is, walking around the neighborhood gets kind of boring. So I thought to myself, well, you know what I'll do? I need a goal. And more or less randomly, because I happen to live up in the north end of the city, I thought, well, why don't I make it my goal so that I'll build up my stamina so that in the spring I'll be able to walk from, let's just see where we are here. I'll be able to walk from my house down to where my son lives on the Danforth. So I checked it out in maps. Took a little bit of work to coerce Google Maps to give you a walking trail, not because of course Google Maps wants to take you in the most straight direction, which is more or less straight down Keel Street and then straight across Bloor. So I managed to do it, but the crazy thing was, it looked like there was all kinds of places where you couldn't do it, and I thought, well, that's stupid. We live in a city. We live in a city of parks and rivers and wetlands and greenlands. I should be able to walk from my house down to the Danforth without ever going on city streets. So I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And my plan, which you are seeing, is that I would do the initial walk in segments so that I could figure out basically where I was going. And then once I had the route all marked out and perfected, boom, then I'd do the whole walk in one day. And so that is my plan. It is to do the entire walk in one day, from the headwaters of the Don to the lake. But then I got to thinking, Toronto is full of urban rivers. We don't think of it, but there's Black Creek, and there's the Humber River, there's the East Don, there's the West Don. And so I looked at it kind of carefully, and I realized that my river, the one that's right beside me, is the West Don. But there's all kinds of others. And amazingly, they didn't have really great paths to the lake either. So that's when I said, well, some enterprising fella could figure out how to do this entire walk. explore all the urban headwaters. And I went to GoDaddy, my favorite place. And what do I see? But urbanheadwaters.com is available. And I said to myself, I think you have a little project. And that is mapping and exploring every urban headwater in the Greater Toronto Area. And that is exactly what I'm doing. So, yeah, I think we now have our answer. It is not possible. So basically, if I start at the headwater of the West Don River, which is roughly at Teston and Cranston Park in Maple, if I start there and I walk south, I can make it almost all the way without going on city streets. There's a teeny little bit between Major Mackenzie and Rutherford, which you saw we searched for a better way to go on the last video. Link in the doobly-doo down below. But other than that, and a teeny little bit around Rosslord Park where they're doing some construction, I can indeed make it from the headwaters of the West Don all the way to the York Mills subway station, basically without going on surface streets. However, that's where the going gets rough. So if you look at the second video, again, link in the doobly-doo, where I did some exploring, there was no obvious way of getting from Yonge and York Mills down to here, basically to the West Don River underneath the Bayview extension bridge, Bayview Bridge. And that is where I parked the car and where we started this video from. But now that we have had our little ramble through the woods, we can now state definitively that there is not, in fact, any way to get into this ravine system from Yonge and York Mills. So we haven't totally given up. There may be a way to do this by going north. So we took a ravine system that goes straight west towards Mildenhall and Riverview Street. Now there is a second way to go from under the bridge. Instead of going left, we could have gone right, and that would have led us up behind RJ Crescent. And maybe there's a way to do that? I don't know. But that will be a project for another day. And I believe right up here is probably, is this the bridge right up here? Got to be getting close. Oh yeah, I think I can see the bridge in the background. There's the Don again. So that creek we were on was not the Don, it was some little tributary. Yeah. I don't know if you can see the color now that the sun's a little higher. Don't know if you noticed that the river's still pretty murky. And that's not, unfortunately, that's not silt. I don't believe it's not flowing fast enough for siltification. And we'd see more silt buildup around the rocks. Unfortunately, that's almost certainly pollutants from from detergents. And there's a very, very, very slight smell of detergent. Detergents have a very, they have a very distinct odor. Now, modern detergents are phosphate-free, so we don't have phosphate and nitrogen buildup, and that's why it's not green. But I'm guessing that the river is too polluted to sustain fishing life, and I don't see any fisher people here, whereas there are fisher people further up at the headwaters. So probably we got some, those streams we saw flowing in were interesting. If I had to guess, I'd guess that there's people who have cracks in their clay sewer pipes, and what's happening is that's going out into the weeping tiles and flowing down into those streams, because we haven't had rain here for about a week and a half. But those streams still had a lot of water flow, which is indicative of a more constant supply. And the actual storm sewers here are in fact tied into the sanitary sewers. It's one of the big problems in Toronto. So they're either tied into a sanitary sewer system, or they're tied into a proper storm sewer system. But in both cases, they do not discharge into this creek. We would have seen the discharge. And we probably would have seen a discharge pond as well to stop flooding. All right. Well, an hour and a half to go 3 kilometers. That's kind of lame. I think this is our path here. And if you listen, you can hear the traffic noise of the Bayview Bridge. Now, of course, urban exploring does have some side benefits. You know, instead of some Fray Bentos corned beef on a shingle, or you know, the ubiquitous family camping lunch, my sister's favorite, Schneider's summer sausage and cheddar cheese on stoned wheat thins, which I can tell you from experience will survive several weeks in a jacket pocket. The incredible thing is I can get in my car and drive, I'd say about certainly less than 10 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes, and I'm going to be on Lawrence Street West, which is a stretch of at least 700 Middle Eastern restaurants. So I think I may have a falafel or a kebab in my immediate future. Really interesting. You can see all the drainage. So, I don't know if you can see the drainage pipes up there, but these are all the storm sewer drains. And problem we have here, you notice those storm sewer drains go into little catchment basins, that's to catch the sand, and then they basically come right down here and drop into the Don River, whether they are direct right up there or sideways right here. And the problem with that is that we salt our streets. And I can promise you that south of here, the salt load in this river will be so high that there's not a goddamn thing living. Really, those should come down to a catchment basin with the wetlands. But first of all, it's not a really good place to put that. And second of all, this is all private land and it's worth somewhere around $250 per acre, because we're right smack dab in the most expensive real estate in Canada. Okay, let's just look at my map and see which way my trail goes. Yeah, just a little bit further up here. Yeah, they don't even bother pretending. See, that runs right down in the ground. Come out and pour that salt right into the Don. And I guess that's the trail that goes up to Glendon College. And probably the trail that I'm going to take when I walk along the street. Yeah, look at that. There's a storm sewer coming out right down there. Yeah, two of them as a matter of fact. Here, you can take a look. And what do I see up ahead but an automobile? Well, team, thanks for joining me for this little ramble. It's been a while, for sure. It's 3.13 kilometers, hour and a half. Thanks very much for walking along with me. Bye-bye.